My name is Lisa Gorman. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 18 years, my family has treated me as nothing more than a servant. I cooked, cleaned, and served at every holiday, every party, every whim, while they sat back and laughed, calling me the help. My parents and younger brother never once saw me as an equal member of the family. That day, at our family dinner in Madison, Wisconsin, everything changed. My father leaned across the table, his voice sharp as a blade, and said, "Tomorrow you're cooking for 30 guests, or you're out of this house." My mother smirked, her eyes filled with challenge, expecting me to nod like always. My brother chuckled, certain I would crumble in silence. For years, I had swallowed their insults, their unreasonable demands, and their cruel belief that I was nothing. But this time, something inside me broke. I was no longer the small, obedient Lisa they thought they controlled. I didn't argue, I didn't cry. I simply smiled a smile that made their smug faces falter. That night, while the whole house slept, I quietly packed a bag, grabbed my laptop, and caught a flight straight to Miami. They thought I'd show up the next morning, apron tied, ready to serve like always. But when they walked into the kitchen, all they found was a hollow emptiness. My father's face went pale. My mother was stunned into silence. And the real shock, it hadn't even started yet. Stay with me to see how it all unfolded. Because trust me, you won't believe what happened next. If you've ever been pushed down or treated unfairly by your family, don't hold back. Share your story in the comments below. I promise I'll read and value every single word. That night at the dining table in our Maple Bluff home, the air was thick with tension. The chandelier flickered above, casting shadows on the polished oak table where my family sat. My father, his jaw tight, stared at me across a spread of roasted chicken and half-empty wine glasses. My mother, sitting to his left, swirled her glass, her lips curled, in that familiar, judgmental smirk. My brother, lounging in his chair, scrolled through his phone, barely hiding his amusement. For 18 years, I'd been their servant, cooking, cleaning, serving, while they treated me like I was invisible. Tonight, though, something felt different. The weight of their expectations pressed harder than ever. Lisa Dad said, his voice cold and deliberate. "Tomorrow's the big party. 30 guests, including a major client for our real estate firm. You're handling the food, setup, everything. No excuses." His words weren't a request. They were in order. I gripped my fork, my knuckles whitening. Before I could respond, Mom chimed in, her tone dripping with disdain. "Don't mess this up, Lisa. It's not like you have anything better to do. You're not exactly drowning in ambition." My brother snickered, not even looking up from his phone. "Yeah, Lisa, stick to what you're good at. Chopping onions and wiping counters." Their laughter stung sharp and familiar, cutting into wounds I'd carried since I was 16. I stared at the table, my mind racing back through the years. Growing up in this house, I was always the afterthought. My room, once a sanctuary, had been turned into a storage closet for Mom's charity gala decorations and Dad's old golf clubs. They'd parade my brother's advertising awards, his framed certificates, lining the hallway, while my name was barely mentioned unless they needed something. "Lisa, cook this. Lisa, clean that." I was their maid, their errand girl, their invisible daughter. At 17, I'd begged to move out to chase my own dreams, but Mom had laughed, saying, "You on your own, you'd never make it." Dad had nodded, dismissing me with a wave. My brother, 4 years younger, soaked up their praise, their attention, their belief that he was destined for greatness. I was just the one who made their lives easier. I remembered the Christmas when I was 20, slaving over a turkey for 25 guests while they toasted to my brother's first big client. I'd burned my hand on the oven and nobody noticed. Or the time I missed my college graduation because Mom needed me to organize her book club brunch. Every sacrifice, every slight, every moment I swallowed my pride, it all came rushing back. For 18 years, I'd let them define me. I'd let their words sink in, let them convince me I was nothing more than their servant. But tonight, sitting at that table, something shifted. Their voices faded, and a quiet resolve settled in my chest. I looked up, meeting Dad's eyes. You expect me to drop everything like always? I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. What if I don't? The room went silent. Mom's smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of irritation. Don't be ridiculous, Lisa, she snapped. This is your role. You live here. You contribute, or do you think you can just walk away? Dad leaned forward, his tone low and threatening. If you can't handle this, you're out. No more free ride. My brother finally looked up, grinning like it was a game. She won't leave, he said almost to himself. She never does. But they didn't know me. Not really. They didn't know about the business I'd built in secret, the late nights spent sketching designs, pitching clients, scraping together every dollar to make something of myself. They didn't know I'd turned $5,000 into a company that was about to change my life. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood against tile echoing in the quiet. You'll see, I said, standing. Their eyes followed me, confused, almost amused, as if they thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. For the first time, I saw a way out. Not just from the dinner, but from this house, this role, this life they'd forced on me. As I walked away from the table, my heart pounded, not with fear, but with purpose. I wasn't their servant anymore. I was done. After dinner, I slipped upstairs and opened my laptop to check an urgent email. My room, cramped with Mom's old gala decorations and Dad's dusty golf bags, felt like a cage. The screen lit up with a message from Elaine Proctor, CEO of Proctor Properties. Lisa, meeting confirmed for tomorrow in Miami. $2 million, contract on the table for Gorman Designs. Don't be late. My pulse quickened. This was the moment I'd worked for, the deal that would redefine my life. For years, I'd built Gorman Designs in secret, turning $5,000 of savings into a thriving interior design firm. My family thought I was nothing, but this email was proof they were wrong. I leaned back, letting the memories flood in. It started 4 years ago, when I was 30, trapped in this house, serving my family's endless demands. I'd always loved design, sketching layouts, reimagining spaces, but Mom called it a childish hobby. Dad dismissed it as a waste of time. My brother just laughed, saying I'd never amount to anything. So, I worked in the dark. After washing their dishes, I'd sketch floor plans on a secondhand laptop. I saved every cent from odd jobs, dog walking, freelance bookkeeping, until I had $5,000. With that, I registered Gorman Designs, built a website, and pitched my first client, a small Miami hotel. They loved my work. One project led to another, then another. Soon I had a team, a portfolio, and clients across Florida. But I kept it hidden. My family didn't deserve to know. The secrecy was exhausting. I'd hide my laptop when Mom barged in, demanding I iron her dresses. I'd take client calls in my car, whispering so my brother wouldn't overhear. Once, I nearly missed a deadline because Dad insisted I polish his car for a client meeting. Every step forward was a fight against their expectations. But I pushed on. I landed a contract with a Miami condo developer, then a boutique chain. By last year, Gorman Designs was profitable, and Elaine Proctor took notice. Her email wasn't just a meeting, it was validation. I wasn't the failure they thought I was. I opened my email again, rereading Elaine's message. The Miami meeting was at 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. I checked my flight, booked weeks ago, a red-eye to Miami 3 hours away. My hands moved with purpose as I gathered my essentials, laptop, design folder, a few clothes for the trip. I wasn't packing to leave yet, but I was ready. Downstairs, I could hear Mom's voice, probably complaining about my attitude. My brother was likely on his phone, oblivious. They thought I'd show up tomorrow, apron on, slaving for their party. They were in for a shock. I pulled a notepad from my desk and jotted down 3 local catering numbers. I labeled it Emergency Contacts and placed it on the kitchen counter. If they wanted their party, they could figure it out themselves. For 18 years, they'd built their world on my labor, but I was done carrying it. I glanced around my room at the walls lined with their priorities, Mom's awards, Dad's business plaques, my brother's framed certificates. None of it was mine. I'd stayed because I thought I had no choice, because their voices had drowned out my own. But tonight, I heard myself clearly. I wasn't their servant anymore. I was Lisa Gorman, and tomorrow I'd show them. I closed my laptop, my resolve hardening. Before I left, I needed to face them one last time. Before walking out the door, I faced my family in the living room. The space was lit dimly, Mom's antique lamps casting a warm glow over the leather sofa where they sat. My mother sipped her wine, her eyes narrowing as I stood in the doorway. My father leaned back in his armchair, arms crossed, his face a mask of impatience. My brother, Tucker, sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone, a smirk playing on his lips. They'd treated me like a servant, but tonight I was done playing their game. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with a clarity I'd never felt before. I took a step forward, my voice steady. "I'm not cooking for your party tomorrow. I'm not your maid anymore." The words hung in the air, sharp and final. Alice let out a harsh laugh, setting her glass down with a clink. "Oh, Lisa, don't be dramatic," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. "You're only good for chores. What else are you going to do? You have no life outside this house." Tucker snorted, not even looking up. "Yeah, Lisa, what's the plan? Run off and live in a cardboard box?" His laughter grated, echoing the years of taunts I'd endured. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. "You think I'm nothing?" I said, my gaze shifting to Victor. "You think I'll just obey like always? But I'm done." Victor's eyes darkened, his voice low and cutting. "Lisa, stop this nonsense. You live under our roof. You follow our rules. If you walk away, you're on your own. No money, no support. You'll be back by morning, begging." His confidence, so smug, made my blood boil. Tucker chimed in, grinning. "She's bluffing, Dad. She's got nowhere to go." They didn't know about Gorman Designs. They didn't know about the $2 million contract waiting in Miami. They didn't know I'd built a life they couldn't touch. I straightened, meeting their eyes one by one. "You're wrong," I said, my voice cold. "I have a future, and it's not here." Alice's smirk faltered, replaced by a flash of anger. "You ungrateful little—" she started, but I cut her off. "Ungrateful for what? For cleaning your house? Cooking your meals? Being your punching bag for 18 years? My voice rose, years of resentment pouring out. "I've given you everything, and you've given me nothing but insults." Tucker finally put his phone down, his grin gone. "You're serious?" he asked, almost disbelieving. "You're actually going to screw us over?" I didn't flinch. "You screwed yourselves. I left catering numbers on the counter. Good luck." Victor stood, his face red. "If you leave, don't come back," he roared. "You'll regret this, Lisa." I stared at him, unflinching. The only thing I regret is staying this long. I turned, grabbed my suitcase from the hallway, and pulled out a stack of Gorman Designs business cards. I tossed them onto the coffee table, the glossy cards scattering across the wood. "That's who I am," I said. "Not your servant. Not anymore." Their eyes widened, but I didn't wait for a response. I walked to the door, my suitcase rolling behind me. The cold Madison air hit me as I stepped outside, but it felt like freedom. My cab was waiting, ready to take me to the airport. Miami was calling, and I was done looking back. Inside, I heard their voices rise. Alice's sharp tone, Victor's shouts, Tucker's protests. They were already arguing, probably convinced I'd cave by morning. "She'll be back," I heard Tucker say as the door closed. "She always is." But they were wrong. They'd built their world on my labor, but I'd built my own without them. As the cab pulled away, I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried for years. The next evening at our house in Madison, the party kicked off, but not as they planned. The living room, usually polished for my parents' real estate firm events, was a mess of mismatched plates and plastic cups. My mother had scrambled to save face after I left the catering contacts on the counter and walked out. Instead of the elegant spread they had promised for 30 guests, including Elaine Proctor, the CEO of Proctor Properties, Alice had ordered sandwiches from a local shop. The guests milled around, their murmurs growing sharper as they picked at soggy bread and limp lettuce. This was supposed to be the night to seal a major deal, but without me, it was falling apart. Alice stood by the buffet table, her smile tight, trying to charm the crowd. "Just a little hiccup," she said, her voice strained as she offered a guest a tray of store-bought cookies. My father hovered nearby, his tie loosened, his face flushed with frustration. He'd expected me to show up, apron on, saving the day like I always had. But I was gone, and the absence of my labor hit them like a slap. The guests, dressed in suits and dresses, whispered to each other, their disappointment obvious. Elaine stood in the corner, her expression unreadable, as she sipped a glass of cheap wine. My brother wasn't helping. He leaned against the wall, phone in hand, typing furiously. I found out later he'd posted a tweet. Lisa bailed on our family's big night. So irresponsible. Ruined everything. His words, sharp and public, painted me as the villain. He didn't mention the years I'd slaved for their events, the nights I'd spent cooking for their clients while he took credit for networking. His followers, mostly industry contacts, liked and retweeted, spreading his narrative. Tucker thought he'd won, that his post would shame me into crawling back. He was wrong. My father, desperate to salvage the night, stepped to the center of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice booming with forced confidence, "let's talk about what Gorman Realty can do for you." He launched into his pitch, touting their firm's success in Madison's market. He gestured to a projector screen meant to display a sleek presentation, but it flickered, showing only a blank slide. The guests shifted uncomfortably. Elaine raised an eyebrow, her patience thinning. "Victor," she said, her tone cool, "I was expecting a more professional setup." My father stammered, his charm faltering. "We had a staffing issue," he said, glancing at Alice. "Our daughter Lisa was supposed to handle things." Alice, her composure cracking, jumped in. "Lisa is useless," she said loud enough for the room to hear. "She's always been unreliable, and now she's sabotaged us." The guests froze, some exchanging awkward glances. Elaine's face hardened, but she said nothing. Alice's outburst, meant to deflect blame, only made them look worse. The room grew quieter, the air thick with secondhand embarrassment. A few guests slipped toward the door, muttering excuses about early meetings. Victor tried to pivot, offering to discuss terms over coffee, but Elaine cut him off. "I'm not interested," she said flatly, setting her glass down. "I came for a serious proposal, not excuses." The party unraveled from there. By 9:00 p.m., half the guests had left. Alice, red-faced, barked orders at the hired servers who struggled to keep up with the mess. Tucker, oblivious to the damage, kept scrolling through his phone, probably gloating over his tweet's traction. My father retreated to his study, slamming the door. The night they'd pinned their hopes on, the deal that could have expanded Gorman Realty, was a disaster. They blamed me, of course. Alice spent the evening telling anyone who'd listen that I'd betrayed them, that I'd always been a failure. Tucker's tweet gained more likes, each one a knife they thought would cut me down. But they didn't know I was in Miami, hours away, preparing for the biggest meeting of my life. They didn't know that Elaine, the woman they'd failed to impress, was about to hear my pitch. Their world was crumbling, and mine was just beginning. The next day, I walked into the most important meeting of my life. The conference room at Proctor Properties headquarters overlooked the ocean, sunlight glinting off glass walls. I adjusted my blazer, my portfolio under my arm, and took a deep breath. Elaine Proctor sat at the head of the table, her sharp eyes scanning my designs. Her team, a group of executives in crisp suits, watched me closely. This was my chance to land a $2 million contract for Gorman Designs, the company I'd built from nothing. My family's insults, calling me useless, a failure, echoed in my mind, but I pushed them aside. Today, I was here to prove them wrong. I launched into my pitch, my voice steady. Gorman Designs transforms spaces into experiences, I began, flipping through slides of sleek hotel lobbies and modern condos. I explained how my team could elevate Proctor Properties' new Miami development, blending luxury with functionality. Elaine leaned forward, nodding as I detailed timelines and budgets. Halfway through, she raised a hand. "Lisa," she said, her tone curious. "Your name sounds familiar. Were you supposed to be at a party in Madison last night?" My stomach tightened. I hadn't expected her to connect the dots. I hesitated, then nodded. That was my family's event. I wasn't there. Elaine's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your mother, Alice, was it? Called you unreliable in front of everyone. Said you ruined their night." The executives exchanged glances, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks, but I held her gaze. "My family underestimated me," I said. "They thought I was just their servant. But I've built Gorman Designs from $5,000 into what you see here. I'm not defined by their mistakes." Elaine studied me, then smiled faintly. "I respect that," she said. "Let's see the rest of your pitch." I continued, my confidence growing. I walked them through renderings, color schemes, and client testimonials. By the end, Elaine was sold. "This is exactly what we need," she said, extending her hand. "We're signing with Gorman Designs, $2 million, as discussed." I shook her hand, my heart pounding with triumph. The contract was mine. Years of late nights, hidden calls, and stolen moments had led to this. As we finalized the paperwork, Elaine leaned in. You know, your family's party was a disaster. Sandwiches from a corner store. No wonder they were desperate to blame you. I managed a small smile. They'll figure it out, I said, but I knew they wouldn't. Later that day, Elaine posted on LinkedIn, thrilled to partner with Lisa Gorman and Gorman Designs for our Miami project. Her vision and resilience are unmatched, a true professional who delivers when others falter. Her post, tagged with my name and company, went viral in industry circles. It was a glowing endorsement, but it also laid bare the truth. I was the one my family had trashed, the useless daughter who'd outdone them all. I stared at the post on my phone, watching the likes and comments pile up. Industry leaders I'd admired for years were congratulating me. For the first time, I felt seen, not as a servant, but as Lisa Gorman. Back in Madison, my family saw the post. My phone buzzed with notifications, missed calls from Mom, Dad, even Tucker. Voicemails piled up, their voices ranging from angry to frantic. Lisa, how could you humiliate us like this? Mom's message hissed. Get back here and explain yourself, Dad's followed. Tucker's was smug. Nice stunt, Lisa, but you're still nobody. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Their words couldn't touch me anymore. I'd built my own world, and they weren't part of it. I sat in my Miami hotel room, the contract signed, the city skyline glittering outside. For 18 years, I'd let their doubts define me. No more. Elaine's post wasn't just praise, it was proof. I'd turned $5,000 into a $2 million deal, and the world was starting to notice. My family's calls kept coming, but I silenced my phone. They'd built their lives on my labor, but I'd built mine on my own terms. The next morning, an inky article turned my family's world upside down. Titled Lisa Gorman, Self-Made Entrepreneur of the Year, it detailed how I'd built Gorman Designs from scratch into a powerhouse in interior design, entirely on my own. The article praised my vision, my relentless drive, and the $2 million contract I'd sealed with Proctor Properties in Miami. Back in Madison, my family, Alice, Victor, and Tucker, read the headline and saw their lies unravel. They'd called me useless, a failure, but now the world knew I'd never needed them. I was in Miami scrolling through the article on my hotel balcony when my phone started buzzing again. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, and Tucker piled up, but I let them ring. The ink piece wasn't just a win, it was a reckoning. Alice and Victor, who'd leaned on my labor to prop up Gorman Realty, were crumbling. The article didn't name them, but their party disaster was already industry gossip. A sharp email from Elaine Proctor to my father sealed their fate. Subject: Gorman Realty Partnership Termination. Due to your unprofessional conduct, Proctor Properties will not partner with Gorman Realty. Their shot at a major deal was dead, their reputation in tatters because of their own mistakes. Tucker's fall was even steeper. His tweet branding me irresponsible for ruining their party had blown up in his face. The Inc. article linked to Elaine's LinkedIn post, which hailed my professionalism. Twitter users, colleagues, clients, and random followers piled on. Tucker Gorman lied about his sister. She's a star and he's a fraud. You can't build a brand on dishonesty. A marketing exec he'd pitched to tweeted, Tucker's agency is done. We don't work with people who tear down family for clout. His followers plummeted. Clients bailed, spooked by the backlash. Tucker, who'd always skated by on charm, was losing his standing in the ad world. In Madison, my family was unraveling. I learned later from a mutual friend that Alice had spent the morning in tears, clutching the article. We were wrong about her, she whispered to Victor, her voice breaking. We need to fix this. Victor, usually unyielding, nodded grimly, dialing my number again. They'd called repeatedly, leaving voicemails that flooded my inbox. Mom's voice trembled. Lisa, I'm so sorry, we didn't know. Please call me back. Dad's was heavy. We made a mistake, Lisa. Let's talk. Tucker's was shaky, stripped of his usual arrogance. Lisa, I messed up. I didn't mean it. Can we start over? Each message begged for forgiveness, a chance to mend what they'd broken. But I didn't answer. I deleted every voicemail, my hand steady. For 18 years, I'd been their servant, cooking, cleaning, swallowing their insults. They dismissed my dreams, mocked my worth. And only now, when the world saw me clearly, did they want me back. But I was done. I wasn't the girl who'd cowered under their expectations. I was Lisa Gorman, Entrepreneur of the Year, and I owed them nothing. Their apologies, sincere or not, couldn't erase the years they'd stolen. In my hotel room, I opened my laptop to a flood of emails. The Inc. article had sparked a wave of interest. Hotels in Los Angeles, developers in Boston, even a museum in Seattle wanted Gorman designs. My team was swamped, scheduling meetings and drafting proposals. Back in Madison, my family's world, built on my labor, was collapsing. Their house, filled with their awards and egos, felt like a distant memory. I'd drawn a line, and they couldn't cross it. My phone buzzed again, but I turned it off. The world saw me for who I was, and that was enough. While my family faced the fallout, I threw the biggest event of my career in Miami. The grand opening of Gorman Design's new branch was a spectacle. Golden chandeliers sparkled in a sleek showroom, showcasing our latest designs for luxury hotels and condos. Over 200 guests, from real estate tycoons to interior design influencers, sipped champagne and toured mock-ups of our work. I stood at the center, my navy dress sharp, my smile steady. This wasn't just a launch, it was a statement. I'd built this empire on my own terms. And tonight, Miami's elite were here to witness it. The showroom buzzed with excitement. A developer from Chicago approached me, eyes wide. "Lisa, your designs are a game changer," he said, handing me his card. "We need you for our downtown project." A hotel chain CEO cornered me next, pitching a multi-city contract. My team, a tight-knit group I'd handpicked, moved through the crowd, sealing deals and scheduling follow-ups. The energy was electric. Every handshake, every nod was proof that Gorman Designs had arrived. I caught my reflection in a glass wall, standing tall. This was my world now, built brick by brick, no one else's. Later that week, I stood on a stage at the University of Miami, invited to speak on success without permission. The auditorium was packed. Students, professors, local entrepreneurs, all leaning forward as I took the mic. I didn't talk about my family or their failures. That chapter was closed. Instead, I spoke about self-respect. For years, I let others define my worth, I said, my voice clear. I worked in shadows, believing I wasn't enough. But success isn't about their approval. It's about knowing your value and refusing to let anyone diminish it. The crowd nodded, some scribbling notes, others whispering to their neighbors. A student in the front row raised her hand. "How do you keep going when everyone doubts you?" she asked. I smiled. "You don't need their belief. You need your own. Trust your work, and the world will catch up." I shared stories of late-night sketching designs, of clients who'd underestimated me until they saw my results. I told them about the first hotel lobby I'd designed, how the client's jaw dropped at the reveal. I didn't mention the years of being called useless, or the weight of expectations I'd carried. Those weren't the point. The point was, the moment I chose myself, the moment I decided my worth wasn't up for debate. "Self-respect is your foundation," I said. "Build on it, and no one can shake you." The room erupted in applause. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just succeeding, I was inspiring. After the talk, students crowded around, asking for advice, sharing their own struggles. A young woman, barely 20, told me she'd left a toxic job to start her own business. "Your story gives me hope," she said, her eyes bright. I handed her my card, telling her to reach out. Another student, a design major, asked about internships at Gorman Designs. My assistant, standing nearby, jotted down names and emails. The room felt alive with possibility, and I realized this was bigger than me. I wasn't just building a company, I was building a legacy. As I left the university, the Miami skyline glowed against the night. I thought about the girl I'd been, quiet, obedient, always trying to please. She was gone. In her place was Lisa Gorman, a woman who'd claimed her space and refused to shrink. Self-respect wasn't just a lesson, it was my armor. I didn't need anyone's permission to shine, and I never would again. To everyone watching this story unfold, I have one thing to say: you are enough. If you've ever felt trapped by family, by doubt, by expectations, know this: you can break free. Your worth isn't tied to their approval. It's in your heart, your work, your courage. Share your story in the comments. Tell me how you've stood up, how you've claimed your place. Let's inspire each other to keep going, to keep building, to keep choosing ourselves.